Masterchef host out of BBC show, says The Sun, and then a massively big broadside from Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart says, "Sir Rod, you humiliated my wife, you tubby, bald bully." So let's hear from what Kirsty Wark has been saying. Kirsty Wark is the very respected presenter of Newsnight. She is someone who I trust, I must say. I worked with her previously when I worked at Newsnight. I have a lot of respect for her. She helped me out personally with a couple of things as well behind the scenes. Really trustworthy person. Obviously, all these are just allegations. We've got to be careful about that, but this is what Kirsty Wark had to say.
There were two occasions in particular where he used sexualized language in front of a number of people, and it wasn't as if it was anyone engaged with this. It was completely one-way traffic, but I think people were uncomfortable, and something that I really didn't expect to happen.
Gregg Wallace has responded to all of the allegations against him. Well, he's responded by saying that he thanks people for being in touch and supporting him. This is what he has had to say.
I would like to thank all the people getting in touch, reaching out and showing their support. It's good of you. Thank you very much.
That's about all he can say at the moment. And yes, just with Rod Stewart, his reaction to this, it's interesting because Gregg Wallace gets very annoyed when you spell his name with one G at the end of it. So I wonder whether this was deliberate or not deliberate for Rod Stewart just to spell it with one G. He says, so Gregg Wallace gets fired from MasterChef. Good riddance, Wallace. You humiliated my wife, Penny Lancaster. You humiliated my wife when she was on the show, but you had that bit cut out, didn't you? You're a tubby, bald-headed, ill-mannered bully. Karma got ya. Sir Rod Stewart is what he says there. Well, let's talk to John Mair. He's a former BBC producer. John, thanks for joining us this afternoon. The BBC has said that we take any issues that are raised with us seriously and we have robust procedures in place to deal with them. We're always clear that any behaviour which falls below the standards expected by the BBC will not be tolerated. Where an individual is contracted directly by an external production company, as is apparently the case here, we share any complaints or concerns with that company and we will always support them when addressing them. I mean, that's not really worth the paper it's printed on here, is it? Given that these allegations go back a very long period of time. They are very, very serious, and it appears that nothing was done about it because Gregg Wallace continued to present MasterChef.
Not really, Peter. Good to see you again.
Hello.
Look, I mean, another day, another crisis at the BBC, eh? By my reckoning, they've lost 4.5 presenters in the last month or so, and 4.5 they fired, and 2.5 have left voluntarily, you know. Only the BBC could sort of make such a mess of it. You know, the trouble is that since Hugh Edwards, they've become way overcautious, and anybody who steps out of line is immediately out because they managed to mess up the Hugh Edwards thing so much. But you know, this is not a good look for the BBC to have this hanging over them. But you know, if you hire a barrow boy, a barrow boy acts like a barrow boy.
But, I mean, these allegations are not, were they to get rid of him, if even one or two of these allegations are true, that is not, I mean, that's not an overreaction, is it? In fact, it's an underreaction if the allegations go back a long, if the allegations go back a long time, John.
They go back 17 years, don't they? I mean, you know, maybe it should be investigated before.
That's my point, though. My point is this keeps happening, doesn't it? Because the Telegraph newspaper has done a lot of investigating here, and actually the BBC has only acted after they've put the allegations to the BBC. The fact is that the BBC apparently can't be trusted to actually do these investigations themselves. If this goes back 17 years, if even some of this is true, why on earth should that guy, Gregg Wallace, still have been presenting MasterChef?
Well, I mean, to give the BBC News some praise, Peter, you know, they've done some investigation as well. You know, they've been doing it for a couple of months, and they did a very good piece today. You know, the BBC is pretty awful at investigating itself, and obviously there was a lot of gossip in the industry about this man, you know, and the BBC should have chased up on it. They didn't, so they ended up with egg on their face again, and an increased licence fee today, I hear.
And there'll be many people, including watching and listening to this programme, John, who will say, why should we pay an even higher licence fee for an organisation that cannot regulate itself, because this keeps happening?
Because it delivers you very good programmes, day after day,
But,
night after night.
but so many people do. I mean, I agree with you. It does deliver many good programmes. I enjoy watching and listening to them myself as a licence fee payer. But there are a lot of people who do not trust the BBC. What they think will happen, as has happened on a number of occasions now, is that allegations will be made, often by more junior people. They will be ignored. They will be cast aside, and the presenters will be protected because the management class are afraid of upsetting the apple cart.
This is true. Presenter power, but you know, I mean, look, the BBC is its own worst enemy. I've never known a time when it's had so many enemies in the press and everywhere else. You know, I'm surprised they got an inflation licence fee. But let's talk, you know, beyond that to 27. What's going to happen then? That's when the whole licence fee comes up for discussion again. And I think that's in great danger. And I think the BBC should be thinking of alternatives like a hybrid fee or some element of subscription.
I agree with you, John. But I mean, the trust issue is such a big one with Gregg Wallace here, when it's saying we take any issues that are raised with us seriously and we have robust processes in place to deal with them. The processes are not robust. That's the point.
No, they weren't robust for Hugh Edwards, were they?
No, they weren't, and it just keeps happening. So there'll be so many people who will question this and will say, what more is there? Who's the next presenter that this is going to happen about?
Indeed, and where's the damage limitation? Where's the crisis management and all of this? You know, you don't get the feeling that they're across it all. You know, it just sort of comes out and they say, oh well, you know, we've got robust procedures. Well, actually, you need to be far more robust. But look, I mean, presenters, as you well know, Peter, are funny animals because you have to have an ego to appear on television.
Yeah, that's true.
And that ego sometimes takes over, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but you still have. I mean, some of the behaviour that is alleged here, allegations that Gregg Wallace walked into the Masterchef studio completely naked, except for a sock pulled over his penis before doing a silly dance. This alleged incident was also witnessed by 2 other members of the production team. They alleged he was very touchy-feely and made disgusting sex-related jokes. There's an allegation from Kirsty Wark, who has a lot of integrity, in that she says there were 2 occasions when Wallace used sexualised language in front of other people when she appeared in Celebrity Masterchef in 2011. 13 years ago, and the BBC did nothing about it. And that is another presenter, a very senior presenter, very respected news presenter, making that allegation, presumably at that time as well.
Indeed, so it's likely to be true. I mean, you know, somebody should have done something. She should have gone to the executive or indeed the commission executive and said, look, I'm unhappy, as indeed should other people. But as you said, junior people are not believed, you know. So he probably thought... Or
worse, John, they are believed, but nothing is done about it because they're junior.
Probably true, until it reaches a level where the BBC can't avoid the noise for too much more. Yeah. But you know, presenters are funny. My first job in television was working with Robin Day. He wasn't exactly the easiest man to deal with, but you know, he
wasn't someone who went around doing this kind of behaviour that Gregg Wallace is alleged to have done. I've worked with some very, very difficult presenters previously in all sorts of media jobs, like yourself, John. They can be, and I include myself in this, they can be eccentric, funny beasts. They're often weird and wonderful people, and that's part of the rich tapestry of what journalism and television is, and broadcasting. And I love that. I love that it's a haven for eccentrics. But there are, and I would include myself in that, but there are clear lines that are just, I mean, some of the stuff that Gregg Wallace is, I mean, making a rape joke, a joke about rape, allegedly, around Ulrika Johnson, who herself claimed she was a victim of rape. I mean, that is just absolutely beyond the pale. That's not eccentricity, that's not ego, that is just being outrageously wrong and doing things that should not happen.
You get away with it once, you get away with it forever, but as I said, you hire a barrow boy, you expect him to be a barrow boy.
Well, I also wonder about the management, John, as well, and that's at the heart of this. Thank you so much for your contribution. That's John Mair there, who is a former BBC producer.